My name is Karin Diamond, and I run a theatre company called Relive with my colleague Alison O'Connor in Cardiff, Wales. Over the past 5 years, we have developed a powerful and creative form of life story work with older people, which culminates in informal sharings in community settings, residential homes, and even powerful multimedia productions in theatres across Wales and Ireland. As our work has consistently shown, this is a powerful process involving a unique crossover between a therapeutic and creative experience. We are constantly growing and learning as practitioners, and the feedback we receive from older people and audience members from each project strengthens our understanding and passion for this work. We believe that life story work has the potential to greatly enhance people's well-being, to transform the atmosphere of institutions, and to make a lasting difference to people's lives. In 2010, I was awarded a Winston Churchill Fellowship to research theatre and memory work with older people in Japan. I worked closely with Dr. Yukimi Uchide and her colleagues in Ofanato for 4 weeks in November and December 2010. Dr. Uchide is the Chief Director of 10 facilities for older people run by the social welfare foundation Tenjin Kai. She is also the director of Kesen Bokei Chiza, a theatre company that uses drama to promote and enhance a better understanding of dementia in local communities throughout Japan. I wanted to submerge myself in a different philosophy of care for older people, to experience Kesen Bokei Chiza's work, and to share ideas and insights about new creative approaches in the field of arts for older people. On Friday, the 11th of March 2011, 2:46 p.m, an earthquake of magnitude 9.1 on the Richter scale struck the east coast of Japan. It was the most powerful known earthquake to have ever hit the country and triggered tsunami waves of up to 133 feet that has changed the Japanese landscape forever. Iwate Prefecture was one of the worst hit areas. Whole towns and villages were wiped out. Ofanato, which was my home for nearly 4 weeks, was devastated, as was the nearby town Takata City. Tenjin Kai, the facility in Ofanato that I worked and stayed in, was built on a hill and became a refuge point for the local community for many months following the disaster. My interpreter, Mrs. Ozawa, lost her mother, her sister, and many more from her family. She also lost her home. Akasaki Cho, a fantastic daycare centre in Ofanato, where I spent my first evening being welcomed by Dr. Uchide and her colleagues, has gone. Compiling this report has been painful and difficult. Some of the places you will see are not there anymore, and with deep sadness some of the people you will see have lost their lives. I can't imagine what my friends have been through these last 5 months, but I know that their spirit and determination is very strong. This report is a celebration of their work, love and dedication. As Dr. Uchide said, they will never be beaten. In 2008, the number of older people in Japan reached 22.2%. the highest ratio of older people in the world. Consequently, the number of people with dementia increased rapidly to 2.3 million. Over the last 10 years, Japan has been grappling with the issue of how to ensure that people with dementia live a peaceful and fulfilling life with dignity in a rapidly aging society. In the 1980s, older people with dementia were commonly seen as people who can no longer understand anything. In care facilities across the country, there was an introduction to group therapy approaches like music therapy and reminiscence therapy. These approaches try to enhance the potential of people living with dementia. Dr. Uchidi told me that these approaches were ambiguous and sometimes forced on older people by care staff. In those days, older people with dementia were seen as people to be cared for unilaterally. In the 1990s, there was a growing awareness that dementia could happen to anybody, and the dignity of people with dementia should be maintained despite their condition. People began to have a better understanding of dementia, and the introduction of person-centered care was implemented throughout Japan. This was the first major shift in dementia care in Japan, and a time when it was important to enable people with dementia to live an ordinary life with the support of the people around them. However, at this stage, the common view was that people with dementia needed support because they are ill and cannot do things by themselves. The aim was to provide support in order to make up for the declined abilities of the older person. Since 2005, there's been an increasing focus on the local community and the individual's view on his or her own life. The main idea is that for people to continue to live safely and peacefully in their own local community, and it is important not to cut off their long-established connections to neighbours, friends, favourite shops, familiar landscapes, families, and so forth. Enjoying life with older people with dementia and learning from them was the second shift in dementia care in Japan. This era of reciprocity is not about caregivers and care receivers, but living life as treasured partners. In this era of reciprocity, I learned that it is important for older people and staff to become equal partners. During my time in Orfanato, I visited group homes, multifunctional homes, and daycare centres, and experienced firsthand this new philosophy of care. Dr. Uchidi believes that it's not about giving assistance to residents or daycare patients unilaterally, but to share life with them, to influence and be influenced, to inspire and be inspired. This was a totally new approach and one I have not experienced in the UK. This was the first group home of its kind set up in 1996. I was very lucky to spend many happy days in this home as part of the family. Group homes in Japan are very small, like family homes. Dr. Uchidi believes the larger a facility, the more confusing it is likely to be for residents. Before a new resident moves into Himawari, a lady for example, the care staff make sure that they visit with her the places that are significant in her life. Even if her old house now no longer exists, Dr. Uchidi believes that being in the atmosphere of her birthplace is a moment when deep connections are made. Care staff take photographs and videos of her environment, like an old house, favourite shop, places full of memories. They also collect stories about her from relatives, which all go into her life history file as valuable records for staff. This detailed approach to each new resident creates a treasure trove of information, which not only allows a glimpse into the past life of the resident, but lays the foundation for care staff to feel that each resident is precious to them. I found this life story work to be inspiring, moving and vital in the care for older people. It is a simple but highly effective way of accepting an individual's pace, life story, history and routine. Residents are involved in every aspect of the home. Some residents like to go shopping with care staff. Interaction with the local community enables the community to better understand the residents. When out shopping, the residents' senses are stimulated with smells, freshness of food, touch, sounds, and seasonal differences. The staff respect that the residents exercise full authority and choose what to buy. A shop is also a place where staff can assess the residents' abilities. Himawari have a vegetable garden, and this lady has just pulled white radishes from the garden and is on her way back to the kitchen to cook them. The staff totally support the residents to live their own lives, which in turn nurtures their dynamism, vitality and pride. The kitchen is a centre point in every group home. Residents and care staff cook together every day. I helped cook in different group homes during my stay, and I found the experience joyous. I found there was a greater respect for the residents when there were opportunities for staff members to learn from them. This environment enables residents to do whatever they wish and empowers them to express who and what they are. I was taught to make sushi by one woman. I think I did okay. Residents are encouraged to use their old knowledge and skills that they've acquired in their lives. Wisdom is celebrated, creativity in the smallest of tasks is encouraged. Sitting around the dinner table and sharing a meal is a deeply reassuring experience for everyone. There is singing and dancing in every home, but this is not pushed on residents. I spent a fantastic afternoon in Hira Multifunctional Home. Multifunctional Home serves not only as a group home, but a daycare centre too for those older people who want to continue living at home but need support during the day. Here is Mr. Hiroshi teaching one of the staff members the snake dance he learned when he was young. There is also peace and quiet in the home, and residents are left alone to rest. As you can see, I rested too. This photograph shows a visit to a family grave. Dr. Uchide told me that this lady was calm and smiling when she got there, but as she talked about things from her past, many emotions welled up in her mind. The staff member who is putting her arm around her later said that she didn't know what to say to her, but also said that she felt in touch with this woman's existence and couldn't help but think of her own existence and life. I was in awe of how the older people in the daycare centres and group homes I visited looked after each other. Humanity is fostered in the warmth of interpersonal relationships. Older people take baths together. The tenderness and love expressed in these moments is beyond words. Mochi is a traditional Japanese New Year food made from glutinous rice pounded into a paste and moulded into shape. Here staff and daycare residents work together to create the perfect mochi. Sadly, Akasaki-cho was swept away by the tsunami, but all the residents and care staff were saved. I was delighted to watch and take part in a performance of Peach Boy, which is a traditional Japanese story. Again, residents, daycare residents and staff work together to create a fantastic theatre show. This innovative theatre company was formed in 1994 under the initiative of Dr. Uchide and the staff of the Kesen Day Service Centre. It was to build the foundation for community-wide support for older people with dementia. The theatre group is made up of care workers, social workers, group home managers, singers and teachers. They have given over 280 performances to over 85,000 people in schools, community venues and theatres across Japan and internationally like Australia. They are all volunteers. The performance is based on materials collected in what they call the Good Stuff Notebook. This is a record they keep of older people's real speech and any interesting stories they've heard from them, their care workers or their families. Every play is based on a real person's story. I was lucky enough to watch them rehearsing for a tour to Yamaguchi Prefecture. I got to travel with them as part of the company and even had a small role in the actual show as Susan Boyle's sister. We travel over 1,000 kilometres to give 2 performances. The first performance is on Friday night to an audience of care workers, and the second performance is on Saturday night as part of a dementia care conference for healthcare professionals from all over Yamaguchi Prefecture. When Bokeh Chiza are invited to give a performance away from home, they make sure the local community is involved. The aim is to have fun together, to get excited and create a sense of unity. Dr. Uchida believes that a performance followed by a workshop on issues around dementia is more powerful than any lecture. Dr. Uchida is now placing a strong emphasis on giving performances at preschools, primary schools and junior high schools. They encourage the children not to see older people with dementia as strange, but as unique individuals. When Bokeh Chiza give a performance in a junior high school, they invite local older people to the school and ask them to take part in the group workshops after the performance. I think this intergenerational approach creates a deeper level of understanding and connection. At Group Home Himawari, Dr. Uchida and her colleagues have been experimenting with a program called Dream Again, in which residents and staff work together to make residents' wishes come true. Wishes vary from resident to resident. They may be going to a family grave, visiting relatives in a distant place, going for a meal, or just having a good night's sleep. The impact on residents and staff has been amazing. This table compared emotions on normal days and those at Dream Again. Positive emotions increased substantially from 55.3% on normal days to 94.2% at Dream Again. Negative and neutral emotions were not observed at Dream Again. Other emotions decreased from 40.8% on normal days to 5.8% at Dream Again. These results suggest that activities to make residents' wishes come true can be opportunities to give a huge boost to their daily lives. Care staff are given a 6-week intensive training program before they begin working in group homes. I was fortunate enough to travel with Dr. Uchida and her team to Sendai City to attend a day of training with local care staff. I took part in a simulation exercise called Experiencing Dementia. The aim of the simulation is to give trainees an experiential environment to begin to develop practical strategies and empathic skills in caring for older people with dementia. We all wore white gowns and white masks, which emphasised our lack of individuality and created a sense of disorientation throughout the exercise. Trainees were told to find certain objects in the room, deliver them to us, and receive instruction for the next task. What the trainees didn't know was that there were no rules as to who gained further instruction and who didn't. To add further confusion, loud music was played throughout the simulation. After 30 minutes and an increasingly frustrated group of trainees, the simulation came to an end. What followed was a fascinating discussion facilitated by Dr. Uchida on the trainees' experiences during the simulation. We talked for hours about effective communication and environmental strategies when working with older people with dementia. We also discussed key values that the trainees would use as the basis of their care. Many trainees said they would do things differently after the simulation, and it was much more effective than learning from a book or a lecture. I attended several conferences throughout Japan, and they were attended by professors, doctors, care staff, managers, nurses, researchers, and artists, all working in the field of dementia care. Dr. Uchida gave a lecture in one conference on Himawari, and Bokeh Chiza gave a performance in another. My interpreter, Mrs. Ozawa, was amazing, sitting next to me for up to 8 hours at a time translating everything. We both became a little fried by the end of these days, but there was so much to learn. One of the notable conferences was in Yamaguchi Prefecture. Backstage, Dr. Uchida introduced me to Minami Nobutaka. He describes himself as a punk Japanese poet. He gave a lecture on his experience of caring for his wife who had dementia. He has given over 1,700 lectures across Japan. This is a photograph of everyone who played their part in the conference. In 10 years, there's been a radical reform of long-term care provision for older people with and without dementia. I've realised that Dr. Uchida and her colleagues believe in the lifelong development of a person. No matter how old and no matter what condition we are in, there is always something physically, intellectually, or spiritually new that we can gain by undergoing various experiences. This perspective is based on an ongoing belief that people continue to develop until the very end. I've learned about the importance of connections. As dementia progresses, the resident loses awareness of their connections with other people and even with themselves. It is almost as if they are deprived not only of their identities, but also of existence itself. It is the respect for connections that enables the residents to feel the existence of others and themselves. I've learned that the residents are friends who live the rest of their lives together under one roof. An in-depth understanding of the person leads to the residents and staff becoming irreplaceable for one another. Dr. Uchida believes we have to learn from the stories the residents tell us. Japan is a land of striking contrasts between old and new that somehow sit gracefully side by side. I have never felt so safe in a city or so peaceful in the countryside. My time with Dr. Uchida, her colleagues, and the many residents I met bring back happy and deeply fulfilling memories. It also creates a deep sadness within, and if I'm honest, I still can't get my head around what has happened. I've been asked to attend and run 3 workshops in a dementia care conference in September for care workers and managers across Cardiff and the Vale. I will be using the simulation exercise that I experienced in Sendai City as part of my workshop. I'm also speaking at the Aging Artfully conference in October in Manchester. This will be a fantastic opportunity to share my findings with people in the field of arts for older people. I would dearly love to invite Dr. Uchida to Wales. She gave me such an incredible welcome in Japan. We laughed and cried as we shared many conversations about older people, and her philosophy of care is innovative and inspiring. I would like her to meet with Ruth Marks, the Older People's Commissioner in Wales, and introduce her to you all. Thank you to Jamie Balfour and Julia Weston for their amazing support. I would have been lost without my interpreters Robert Bailey and Mrs. Ozawa.